Namaskar. So today, thank you for having me for this event. This is, of course, very special. We are celebrating India's software product companies, something that is dear and near to me personally and to Zoho as well. And today I've chosen a topic that has also been something very important to me. The last several years, I've been paying attention to this and thinking through this. And let me first address how our software product ecosystem looks like today, and particularly all the VC investments, where they are heading. There's, of course, a lot of educational tech, edtech software, fintech, financial technology, food tech, delivery, logistics, travel, entertainment, of course. And there's a lot of all these companies have sprung up, and that's very good. And we need a lot more startups. There's one kind of company I would like to see more of. And what is common about all these? There's something common about all these things. And what is common is that we actually do not address our structural trade deficit with a country like Japan, China, or Germany, where we import high-value products, including this phone, iPhone, and all the technology behind it that I'm on right now. We cannot export to them our fintech or our edtech, even because the cultural and educational systems are different. I mean, educational technology is very tied to how education works in the country. So ours is tailored towards our systems. It may not work for Chinese, may not work for Japanese. The same way with delivery technology. A lot of it is covered in those countries already. And same thing with, of course, fintech and logistics, a lot of that. So there's one part of technology that we need to do. Definitely more companies need to emerge in this, what I'm going to call deep tech. Deep tech is actually the stuff that on top of which all of this other tech sit as layers above. If you have an educational technology startup, there is a cloud layer, there is a hardware layer, there is network layer, all of that. Those are all invisible. I mean, you only see the educational technology. The consumer sees the education technology, but there is a layer below it. There is layers and layers of technology below it. And my strong thesis is that India needs to play companies that play in those layers, all of those layers. And starting with, for example, the lowest layer to me would be a semiconductor fab. And we don't have a strong fab in India right now. We import 100 billion worth of semiconductor chips, but we don't yet have a fab. And that's something worth thinking through. The same thing, we don't have an operating system or the databases and all of that. A lot of it we use open source, but there is a lot of proprietary technology involved in this. So we use a lot of open source, but we also built a lot of proprietary technology in these areas, databases and search, all of that. So it's extremely important to have investments in these technologies. Same way, compilers, operating systems, and these are all areas that we need investments in. And adjacent to it, I'm talking about medical technology. If you go to hospital, essentially all of that technology, cool stuff you see, comes from abroad. Essentially, none of it is, India has the deep tech know-how. Though there are Indians participating in these. I mean, there's always many, many Indians who are working in all this. And in fact, a lot of these groups are a lot of Indian brains working on it. But that doesn't necessarily benefit India because the value added sits elsewhere. And this has actually deep structural consequences for our economy. And I want to address that next. So first I mentioned how the kind of startups we are funding today don't address the structural deficit we face with particularly technologically advanced nations, more advanced nations than us. That will include Taiwan, that will include now China, because China is more technologically advanced than us. And of course, Japan and Germany and US when it involves internet companies, all of that. And each of these companies use all those technologies. For example, a fintech company would use cloud, public cloud, and their employees would use Macs and iPhones or Android phones, all that. So there's all this technology is used, but we don't have a way to pay for it. That's what it means. We don't actually give something in return. So we run a deficit, and that goes on as debt in our national accounts. And that debt shows up at corporate level, government level, all of that, but still it's debt. So that is actually a fundamental issue. And when you don't have those types of companies, there is actually a long-term economic consequence. And I would like to point to Mexico as an example of a country that has been trapped in this. Mexico has a lot of manufacturing capability. And yet none of the know-how is in Mexico. The products are not designed. The product know-how is not in Mexico. So this is exactly like the iPhone factory example, where we should not celebrate too much that we have an iPhone building factory. I mean, that's good, but we probably get $10 per phone. Our value addition in India is about $10 per phone. And well, the total value of dollars. So you might get $10 out of it, like 1%. That's not enough value addition to capture in India for not our talent pool, our aspirations, all of that. We have to capture more of that value here. And to do that, we have to have the deeper technical know-how and companies with that know-how, companies that can command the price. And I'll tell you what happens when you don't have it. And recently, this is actually, I'm going to take a totally different field. What I noticed is, of course, all of the sophisticated machines. There is very, very sophisticated machines. There are kind of robot spoolers, and I saw all kinds of this. Just to take cotton and make it into a yarn, that thread that goes out in spools. That is about 7 or 8 steps there, each with separate machinery. And all these are highly sophisticated. And you go look at the labels of those machines, German, Swiss, and Japanese, typically. And here's the crux of it. There may be hundreds of such textile mills in India. All of them would have similar profile of machines. And there are a couple of Indian companies that make it, but still the majority of that machines are imported still. And of course, Bangladesh would have the similar mills, and they get the same machines from all that. And here's the problem. When India and Bangladesh will get the same price on those machines, Indian labor is costlier than Bangladesh. So our textile mills will lose competitive advantage to Bangladesh. And this is even before tariffs and all of the differential tariffs are already applied, which means that our industry already has somewhat of a disadvantage in terms of this. And here is the way this works. Those machines' cost is fixed by the few suppliers there are, but the output of the textile mill, there are hundreds of players competing in the market. So this is what I call costly inputs, commodity output problem. So your inputs are costly. Your output is a commodity subject to commodity economics, where raised to the bottom in terms of pricing. And if your labor costs are somewhat higher, and we want labor costs to be higher because that's what the standard of living is. If you want a good standard of living in this country, labor costs have to go higher. There's no other way, right? And yet when textile mills pay better, they tend to get competed away. So that is the problem. On the other hand, why doesn't it happen to Germany on the machines? Well, there are only few suppliers in that segment. It's not like you have 100 suppliers of textile machinery, those kind of advanced machines that the textile mills want. So they maybe have 2 or 3. So in a sense, they name the price for the machines that come in. And while we get to take the price, whatever the commodity price the market assigns us. So the textile mill has to pay the asking price and receive the given price. So in neither case, there is any price control here. So your supplier charges you whatever they want, and your customer tells you what price they will pay. So that is the state you are in. And this might appear like a textile problem or something, but this is a structural economic problem. Mexico gets stuck in this trap where they have costly inputs of know-how and commodity output where their labor output is commoditized and not considered sufficient value. And this results in what's called the middle income trap, where a country is not able to advance beyond that level. And to break through this, we need local know-how, absolutely needed. And these product companies, I mean, software product companies, tech product companies, deep tech, that's where they have to be built. And it's absolutely essential that we get on this And we have companies that we need hundreds of companies. And everything from smartphone cameras to operating systems, everything from MRI machines to robot textile machines, all of that we need the know-how. So that is what my mission has been. I'm trying to push this idea and trying to get people become aware of this, because these are structural economic consequences long-term for India. So that's with that I will, in my brief keynote. Thank you very much, and namaskaram.